Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome, SBI Podcast listeners and video podcast viewers. My name is Greg Alexander, and I am the CEO of SBI, a sales and marketing consulting firm dedicated to helping you make your number. This is the weekly SBI Podcast, and its purpose is to help you make your number by getting your peers to share with you how they make theirs. Today's guest is Ted Grulikowski, and he is the Vice President of the B2B business unit at MarketSource, the world's leading sales outsourcing company. If you are not familiar with MarketSource, you should be. They have been helping companies grow their revenues for over 35 years, serving approximately 200 clients, and they have sold over $4 billion of products and services on behalf of their clients. If you want to stand up a new sales channel and ramp revenue quickly, check them out at MarketSource.com. Ted, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg. Glad to be here.
All right, so Ted, like many of you are listening, is a traveling, busy sales and marketing executive, so he's on his cell phone. We're going to do our best here. So if you hear some noise in the background, audience, I appreciate your patience, but we should be good to go. All right, today's topic is taking a new product to market by recruiting and managing a team of resellers. Many of you listening will make or miss your 2016 revenue number based on the amount of revenue generated by the reseller channel. This means you need to recruit, onboard, enable, and nurture reseller partners, both new and old. Companies often don't do this well because the number of channel managers on the org chart is too few. It's not uncommon for us to see a single channel manager being asked to support hundreds of resellers. Impossible. This results in dozens of resellers being neglected. And when one of your resellers gets neglected, they don't generate any revenue for you. Dozens of companies have hired Ted and his MarketSource team to solve this very problem. And as a result, they are really, really good at getting resellers to sell your product. This is why I have him on the show today. He will share with you how to get more revenue from your resellers. Ted, you ready to go?
Man, I sure hope so, Greg.
All right, let's dive into it. So Ted, when a client comes to you for help in growing reseller revenues specifically, I know you do a lot of things, but we're going to focus on this today, growing reseller revenues. How do you help them?
That's a good question. So when a company comes to us, which, again, like you mentioned, depending on the industry, we can mean, partner, disty, VAR, dealer, agent, broker, DMR, and so on. What we really do is give them the ability to quickly and easily deploy the right resources in the right locations, working with the right channel partners, supported by the latest sales technology to drive revenue in a really short period of time. The right outsourced partner can help provide a level of speed, scale, focus, flexibility, and capability that, when it's done right, can provide a pretty attractive ROI. If I think about it simply, we can help them sell more and more quickly and more often within their channel.
All right. And when they come to you with this challenge, I'm not getting enough of my resellers. I've got a lot of resellers. I don't have enough channel managers managing those resellers. I want to outsource part of this labor to you guys. What are the common obstacles companies have when trying to grow their reseller revenues?
Yeah, so I look at four things. So first, companies don't know what they don't know. The 80-20 rule almost always applies, but too often companies don't have a good idea if they're working with the right 80-20. So do they really have a good profile of the resellers that can help them make better decisions, determine what opportunity is really out there, and how to make a case to cost-effectively go after it? Do they really know what the potential spend is by the reseller, how much they're capturing, who's growing or shrinking? Are the resellers they have the right ones to sell their total solution or support their future strategy? Second one is what I call the ratio challenge. So you touched on it earlier, and it's directly related to my first point. When you have companies that expect one channel manager responsible for two or three, or sometimes we see even more than that, partners, there's very little chance that person, really, no matter how good they are, is going to have a good enough handle on all those partners. So the 80-20 rule starts to come into play, and way too often partners are left unaccounted for, and then an opportunity is left on the table without companies even knowing it. Third is, do they have the right people with the right experience calling on the right resellers? A lot of companies we work with assume just because someone's carrying their business card and they're a big brand, they're well known in the industry, or because of their product or their perceived channel program or incentive, that the reseller is automatically going to listen. This applies to a point, but when they're able to deploy a really credible resource that's been in the reseller's shoes and speaks their language, the level of attention they're going to get and the mind share they can command and likely their sales are going to go up dramatically. The fourth thing I'd say is companies try and force their process on resellers. You and I and your team have talked about this a lot. But too many companies look at their program through the lens of their sales process and try and force their resellers to adapt to it. But they need to be looking at their customers' buying process and adapt their approach to that.
Yep. So great answer. I mean, I see those obstacles in almost all four of them in pretty much all of my clients right now. So you've worked through this. I mean, what are the solutions to those specific obstacles?
You know, there isn't one silver bullet, but I can talk about a few things that I think can help overcome those obstacles. So, you know, spending time carefully profiling partners and really understanding their share of their wallet, their strategy, and then recruiting and working with the partners that align accordingly. The key is this can't be a one-time event. It's got to be an ongoing process where information's constantly updated, profiled, scored, and decisions are made as a result. The second is working with the resellers to be part of developing that right talent competency profile and scorecard for the people that are going to work with them. You know, ask their opinion who the best people are to work with them. Listen, make that part of your hiring profile and part of your process. Third, focus on getting commitment to sell your product or service first, and then work on adapting to their sales process. If you gain that commitment first and you focus on that, and you agree to work with them in their process, things fall into place pretty quickly. If you focus on making them understand the process and work within your confines first, things don't tend to go as well.
Interesting stuff. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away, because when we come back, I'm going to ask Ted to share with us some successful case studies, and my hope these can serve as a blueprint for you, so stick around after the break.
Each day, you receive hundreds of emails, tons of text messages, countless telephone calls, and sit in too many meetings. How do you find ideas to make the number with all this noise? The SBI blog filters all this nonsense for you and presents only first-rate ideas to make the number. Simplify your life. Subscribe to one blog and read the best content. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back. My name is Greg Alexander, and I'm the CEO of SBI. My guest today is Ted Grulikowski, and Ted is the Vice President of the B2B Business Unit of Sales Outsourcing Juggernaut MarketSource. Today we are discussing how to grow the amount of revenue coming from your reseller channel. Before the break, Ted shared with us the primary obstacles to reseller revenue growth and his opinion on what seems to be the right solution to these obstacles. During this segment, we're going to run Ted through SBI's channel optimization process and hear how he has implemented his version of these concepts in his business. If you want to follow along at home, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-report and download our playbook titled How to Make Your Number in 2016 and turn to pages 170 and 171. All right, Ted, I'm going to get tactical on you here for a moment. Answer some of these questions if you can in an instructional way. How do you help your clients determine their ideal reseller profile?
So, Greg, it's part of a process we call Define and Design, or D2D. It walks our clients through a discovery process that helps us understand what the current state of their reseller value prop, their coverage strategy, and where they're trying to go. It sets a foundation for us to determine where and how we can deploy the right resources to help execute their strategy and drive growth. The first thing is to understand at a high level the current state of their corporate product, marketing, sales, and talent strategy. This sounds familiar, and hopefully they're well aligned. If it isn't, I'd suggest they give you guys a call. Once we have that foundation, we look into it and try and understand it and dig into a couple key areas. First is, what is their current product or service value prop? What's their end user value prop? What is their reseller value prop? Who's their target market? Is that target market ready for it? What resellers are most likely to have access to the customers that align best with their product? What capabilities do the resellers need to sell their product or solution? We're going to take all that information, run it through a bunch of analysis, and help them figure out what that profile needs to look like.
Fantastic. I mean, whether somebody has you guys do this for them or not, I mean, just going through your discovery process would heighten the performance of many of our clients' channel programs. Let me move to the second question in this segment. How do you help your clients determine which resellers will sell the most revenue? You guys have an interesting way of scoring and quantifying. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
So, this one can get a little bit complicated depending on the industry we're dealing with. But in general, what we're going to do is work with clients to put together, a profile, a set of questions. Again, depending on the industry, we know the type of questions that are likely to get the information we need. And we're going to put that into a scoring process that really quickly allows them to gather key information about the resellers to determine who has the greatest opportunity for growth. We've got a set of criteria and, again, a set of questions that's going to get to that, get to those answers pretty quickly. And we can deploy resources and processes that helps make that happen. But the key is we establish that baseline profile, which is where a lot of people stop. Mm-hmm. And that, in my opinion, is a mistake. What we need to do is what we try to do with our partners is integrate that process so it constantly updates those profiles over time. And what happens is they become more accurate and more valuable as we continue to fill that process and gather more and more information. Better decisions are made and growth comes along with it.
Yeah. That's such a great point. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process, and with each tweak, you get more and more effective. All right, let me move to my third question here. How do you determine the right reseller coverage model? So a client comes to you and says, we're not very good at nurturing our resellers. We're not generating as much revenue from the reseller channel as possible. I can't get head count and stick it on my org chart and go hire 50 channel managers. Ted, I'm going to outsource it to you. You've got to figure out the reseller coverage model. How do you do that?
So once we figured out and understood that current feature strategy, we got that process in place to figure out the profile information, or if they have the profile information, we understand it. Then we're going to start looking pretty deep into sales data, both current state and future goals. And then we're going to dig into coverage modeling scenarios that look at inside and outside sales capacity. And then we're going to align resources based on that individual partner's constraints, and they all have them, whether it's budget, whether it's headcount, whether it's some combination of the two, strategy, marketing dollars, MDF funds. Again, depending on the industry, there's a lot of constraints there. We're going to take that into account, and then we're going to align resources that give them the best chance to hitting their goals. So we've got all the latest geo-information services, systems, and tools, and it really allows us to analyze and interpret a ton of coverage data, a ton of sales data, and we start to draw patterns and trends between that sets of data, and then we're going to come up with a coverage model that works based on their individual situation.
Okay. Fantastic. Now, some of the problem with reseller businesses or companies that sell their products to resellers is that they go after a reseller that has a great reputation, is selling a lot of product, but that reseller is selling the competitor's product. How do you guys get a reseller that has met your criteria for an ideal reseller profile? You deploy your coverage model against it, and you got to get that reseller to drop the product to the bad guy and start selling your product. How do you guys do that?
This is a really tough question. I'm not sure there's a silver bullet answer to this one, but I can give some perspective. So, if we've done our job right on the upfront profiling, and their end user and reseller value props really align with that channel partner's capability and services, what we're going to do is bring the right people and the right process supported by the right technology, and we're going to bring that to bear and get in contact with that reseller and talk to them with a level of talent and a level of language focused on how they buy and what's important to them. And we're going to do that really quickly. And we find that can differentiate our clients in relation to what that reseller can sell in their line card and the different competitive products they can sell. And it's going to increase our client share of wallet. I'm not sure anybody can completely stop resellers based on the, kind of the nature of the business from selling or, providing other products. But if you have the right profiles, the right resources, the right coverage model, and you can deploy and execute your strategy really quickly, chances are pretty good you're going to succeed.
Yeah. One thing I've seen you guys do extremely well that has impressed me is that just because the coverage model is more intense and these resellers are now no longer neglected, they're engaging with a member of your team who's highly trained and highly capable, that tends to have the desired effect, which is sell more of your stuff and sell less of the bad guy's stuff. So just increasing the coverage model there is a plus. All right, let me move on to
totally. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me move on to the next one, just in the spirit of time here. I want to keep the show to 30 minutes. So channel conflict with the direct sales team. So I'm your client. I come to you and say, get more revenue out of my resellers. You guys start going crazy with your process and you're super intense and super fast. And now, but I've got a direct field sales force out there and they might freak out. How do you handle that?
So you got to be really clear from day one, and positioning a partner like us as an us against them engagement, really has a ton of risk and has a high likelihood of failing. So we work as an extension or complement to our client sales teams. We don't go to market as MarketSource. We're not an agent to the market. We are our clients. So we make sure there's a really clear communication strategy from the beginning. And we make sure that, we understand, again, getting a little tactical here, how do you transition partners from one sales team to another when they grow or shrink? And, we make sure up front that we're asking the right questions, we've got the right communication strategies, so we're positioned as an ally to the sales team, not as an enemy.
Yep, that makes all the sense. And I think the key point there is that the marketplace, when they engage with you, they think you're employed by your client. I mean, they don't really see that you're an agent, which I think is the key differentiator there. All right, moving along. So let's say the challenge isn't getting more from the current partners. Let's say the challenge is recruiting and onboarding new reseller partners for your clients. How do you go about doing that? Is it similar or is it different?
It's fairly similar. So, again, kind of the themes we talked about before. If we're trying to get them to sell more quickly and more often, so if we can get their average sale price up, shrink that time to first transaction from enrollment, and make sure they continue to transact, again, we're going to understand that partner profile, and we're going to align it to the right database of potential partners. Then we're going to figure out who that right talent profile is and deploy those salespeople quickly, leverage a process backed up by the latest sales enablement technology. And we're going to contact and present our clients' value prop and business proposition in a way that's in the reseller's language, speaks to them at their terms, and focuses on how they want to buy. And if we can ensure that our partners' capabilities align with our client's market and business prop, they're the right partner. We're going to present the program and recruit the partner into the program. From an onboarding perspective, the goal is to educate and enable the registered reseller to move them to transacting in the shortest time possible. So again, I'm going to go back to that profile, and I'm going to go back to finding the right talent and deploying them with the right process and technologies, and focus on that reseller's buying process, not necessarily on how our partners want to sell to them.
Yeah. Great advice. I love the focus on shortening the time from becoming a registered partner to the first transaction. I think that is such a critical period. All right, my last question here in this segment is, how do you advise your clients to organize their channel group to integrate best with your team?
So don't think of us as a way to set up internal competition with your own sales team. Think of us as an extension of your brand. Work with us to really understand where to deploy those resources and understand where there may be gaps in coverage that we can help fill across their channel strategy. Like I said, it's a situation where we got to approach this up front as a partnership and an extension of their brand, not just another channel partner that can compete with their own sales team. We're an extension of their brand, and that's key to success.
Yep, very good. All right, I appreciate you answering these questions. They were very tactical, and you had very detailed answers, which is great. At this point, hopefully the audience is getting a sense for the complexity associated with growing reseller revenue contribution. It's not easy. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back for our third and final segment with Ted, I'm going to ask him to tell you where the landmines are when trying to get more out of your channel partners and how to avoid stepping on them. So stick around after the break. You are watching SBI TV. This is a monthly web TV show featuring guests just like you, executives trying to grow their revenues. Each month, you can peek behind the scenes and watch your peers discuss their strategies for how they make their numbers. You are not going to want to miss this. Welcome back. My name is Greg Alexander, and I'm the CEO of SBI. And my guest today is Ted Grulikowski, the Vice President of the B2B Business Unit of Sales Outsourcing Giant MarketSource. Today we are discussing how to get more out of your reseller channel. Before the break, Ted and I walked through SBI's channel optimization methodology. During this segment, we're going to hear from Ted where the landmines are where they're buried and how to avoid stepping on them. So Ted, first question for you here. What are the biggest mistakes you and the team have made when trying to grow the reseller revenue on behalf of your clients?
Yeah, it's not spending the right amount of time up front, really understanding what we're dealing with, really figuring out, do we really understand the right profile of the partners, the company's product, their reseller value prop, and making sure they align and understanding where and how to deploy those resources. If you don't get those things done well up front, the rest can unravel and become pretty difficult really quick.
Yeah, good advice. And when you think about the biggest mistakes you see your clients making when trying to grow their reseller revenues on their own, so when they come to you and say, this is what we've tried, it hasn't worked, what are the common mistakes that you see there?
Yeah, I go back to 4 things on this one, Greg. So they don't know what they don't know about their partners. As a result, their coverage resources are out of whack with what they need to accomplish. They haven't aligned the right resources accordingly. And then finally, they focus too much in their sales process and not enough on how their partners want to buy.
Yep. It's good to restate that. It's so crisp and it's so true. All right, next question. So in your opinion, what are the biggest risks associated with reseller revenue growth programs? And do you have any advice on how to mitigate these risks?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things. So first is time. So I think companies really need to ask, can they react fast enough to deploy the right resources in the right places to seize opportunities and put themselves in a position to win? If you can't, you really need to ask why and look at your internal processes and make sure they're set up to enable you to execute your decisions quickly and decisively. Again, this isn't about a one-time event. It's got to be an ongoing process that builds on itself and gets more effective over time. Of course, I'd suggest companies look at partners like MarketSource can help in that regard as a viable alternative. But at the end of the day, whether they work with a company like us or not, they got to really question their processes and are they set up to execute their strategy in a rapidly changing environment with resellers as fast as they need to. Second one's focus. So you can have the best reseller program in the world, but if you're spending your time focusing on recruiting, onboarding, and enabling the wrong resellers, you're not going to maximize your advantages. So spend the time and make the investment to put in place a process that allows you to get the information you need, profile and score your resellers to make sure your resources are being deployed in the right place. Again, not a one-time event. It's got to be a process.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, channel strategy is about deploying 3 things: people, money, and time. And if you don't have the right focus, which is what Ted just advised all of us to do, you're going to misallocate those resources, people, money, and time, and your program's going to go down the toilet. All right, we're going to take one last 20-second break. When we come back, Ted and I will discuss an action plan to put all this great advice to work for you. So stick around after the break.
Making your number is hard. Your problems are complex. Complex problems need complex solutions. Introducing the SBI Magazine. Read in-depth stories written by award-winning journalists about how your peers have overcome their problems to make the numbers. When you need more than a tweet, social post, or blog article, turn to the SBI Magazine. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com to subscribe.
Welcome back, everyone. Ted, let's put a nice bow in this. I would like you to speak directly to the audience. What are the 1 to 3 things our audience should do to successfully grow their reseller revenues?
So first, I'd say put in place a process to make sure you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your reseller base, and make sure that process is ongoing and updates itself. Make sure you know more about your resellers than anyone else in the business. Second, get that talent and competency profile right. Make sure your people are the best people that walk into your reseller's door. Get the right people in the right places talking to the right partners. Third, focus on getting the commitment to sell your product or service first. Don't focus so much on your sales process or program. The reseller's buying process should take priority above your sales process.
Yep, all great advice. Okay, what does all this mean to you, the audience? Let me give you my 2 cents. So growing the revenue coming from resellers is really hard to do. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. Don't make the mistake of thinking this is easy to do. If your issue is you are understaffed and underfunded in your channel organization, resulting in inadequate reseller coverage, outsource it. This allows you to rent capacity as needed, which may be easier than the internal sell you'd have to make for asking for additional headcount. If you're interested in this idea, check out Ted's team, MarketSource.com. We put our endorsement behind them. They're really good at what they do. They're very, very good, and they can help you. If you don't want to outsource and you want to focus on getting more out of your internal staff, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop and request one of our channel experts to come out and see you, and they'll put you through a workshop and kind of teach you our perspective on this. Ted, I know you're traveling today. You had to take this call in transit. I want to thank you for squeezing us into your busy schedule. Your answers to my questions were incredibly helpful. You've made a big contribution to our field, so thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate the time.
I also want to thank you, our audience, for tuning in. This show has become very popular, and with this popularity comes great guests like the one we had today, Ted Grulikowski. Ted doesn't come on this show if no one's watching. So thank you, and I wish you much success as you try to make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.